Hello. Okay, I didn't necessarily plan to put out another video already so soon, but it occurred to me that I had almost skipped this topic when I was listing in my head the topics that I still haven't covered. Um, Things that I was talking about. This will be maybe slightly out of order in terms of the showcase, but we got a pretty good show and tell stuff uh, lineup, I guess. A lot of the things, one of the things I was kind of saying yesterday, a lot of the things that, really work for most men in menswear and style and fashion and all that is typically everybody gets really excited about autumn, and then spring, you get excited in maybe a slightly different way. We're coming out of winter, so you don't, hope, maybe need your parka anymore, your heavy wool things or whatever. And so, tweed maybe less to some people as a spring thing than an autumn thing and whatnot. So some of the things that I would show, maybe you can still use them in spring. Maybe you would choose not to. More importantly, though, the measure for this being a continuation of yesterday and the previous one that would be kind of determining, is this office casual, and if not, why not? That being kind of a barometer of when and where these things would be socially acceptable or should be socially acceptable. You can pretty much wear anything you want anywhere you want kind of nowadays. But if you wanted to have, again, that sense of decorum, how would you, piece these things in or whatever? Um, on a personal note, just before I, start just pulling out clothes, I mean, I don't handle the transitional seasons necessarily badly, or it kind of depends year to year. Uh, Typically, though, as a person, like, I mean, when it's cold, you know it's going to be cold, so you kind of know you have to kind of wear a lot of stuff. If it's hot, it's going to be hot. You're typically wearing less stuff. That's pretty. So, but in these middle times, it's harder to kind of, okay, do I take three outfits in the car? Do I just need one? And so I've always, even as a kid, kind of had, windbreakers, and kind of get into, the construction and that kind of thing a little bit more down the path. But my main thing is just kind of always, I even wear long sleeves in the summer a lot of times just because I don't like my arms to be cold. And so if I'm wearing like a t-shirt and I don't have a flannel shirt handy, and I put on a jacket and it has, a nylon or a satin, easy on, easy off kind of fabric instead of a cloth lining, I'm still usually cold in my arms, even with the jacket. So I might be sweating because, I'm wearing, the thing on top of my back just to warm my arms, that kind of thing. And then at this time of the year, for a change, we're still having a fair amount of wet weather. And so, again, like I said yesterday, more often than not, most of the time, I'm still sticking with like a leather option. And, and then when we get into like June, though, we still have those cool evenings, kind of like October, when the cool evenings kind of start. And so, even though 1 minute it's kind of 80 degrees, an hour later, it's like, oh, I need something, I need a jacket, something. So, anyway, so kind of like I said, starting kind of with no real ado. Uh, like I said, I did a whole video on tweed, so I'm not going to talk about tweed, but here's like a fake tweed. I don't know if this is, a wool blend or what, but here we're seeing, instead of a sport coat, we definitely have a jacket style. And obviously I found this at a thrift store. This is not something I, bought new, but it's got a pretty big collar. It's technically out of date. It's technically a size or two too small for me now, but I can still throw it on if I'm just, going out for a little walk or whatever. But, unlike a sport coat, it has no vent in the back. It has no overt. It has hand warmer pockets, but it doesn't have, cargo pockets. It doesn't have a breast pocket. It has likely an interior pocket, but you can find this kind of thing fairly inexpensive. But you see here it's got this kind of satiny lining instead of a exactly what I'm complaining about. Okay, and this has plagued me since I was a kid, and that's kind of why I grabbed something like this first because real easy to see. So typically something like this, I want to have a long sleeve shirt underneath, even if it's not terribly cold out. But again, definitely an autumny vibe, right? I mean, you're not you're not looking at the joys of spring in this, even if it didn't have the somebody else's stains on here. It has a muted, late season feel, not a joyful flowers feel, right? Okay, we are. But would I say that was office casual? Maybe. You could maybe wear that on a casual Friday, but I wouldn't wear it like around the office. Maybe wear it to the office, maybe not. That's kind of on the edge. We're gonna have a lot that are kind of on the edge. Conversely, now though, then you have stuff that is definitely guys do wear this kind of stuff now to office stuff. It's kind of gotten popular somehow, and it's meant to be more outdoorsy. And this does not have sleeves. These next couple are the vest. Well, here we have the quilted vest. I mean, this literally has cargo pockets and hunting hand warmer pockets. Up higher on the. This is. It also has regular hand warmer pockets, which is a novelty. It's kind of a nice feature because usually these are not where you want your hands, but this is definitely not meant to be office wear. This is meant to be, warm outer layer. And technically, I mean, I guess technically we can call it a windbreaker, even though it's not, a nylon shell or whatever. But you can see it's fairly thick. It's probably not quite as warm as it looks, but meant to be, you can layer under a jacket with that or wear it out by itself. The next version, that the now infamous, of course, fleece version, also not meant to be office wear. Okay, I know, again, casual Friday maybe. I know these have gotten super popular with men now, especially the older guys that uh, I guess think this looks dressier than a cardigan or something. I would argue that the opposite is true. I think if I was going to wear something to the office, this would not be it. I think you'll see a lot of guys kind of wearing this to the restaurant in the evening, and again, not really, not really the correct place for that. And then, of course, here I have a thin, flimsy, summery version of that from a little bit of stretched fleece. And again, almost anything fleece, I'm going to argue, is not correct. It's not meant for business apparel at all. And then of course, I have an even heavier version. This should be even more apparent. Duluth. I talked about these in a different video. This one has the no sleeves. And they also had a sleeve version that I mean, this is meant to be windproof. So I could defend this a little easier actually, because if you have bad weather and you're just wearing it to and from, and then you're going to take it off and leave it, that would be one thing. But basically, I consider this hiking apparel, or work wear for labor, not office. And then, as I said in the other video, they had refined, and added snaps and stuff and made of like a shirt jack version with like actual cuffs and things. So I got a couple of those a while ago. I don't think they still offer these, but again, meant to be windproof, meant to be workwear. If you just need a jacket to get from the bus stop to your job or whatever, fine. But it's not office wear. And Then on a lighter note, literally an alternate style of vest. Here's an old Dockers Windbreaker. This was a hand-me-down that I just sort of ended up with. This I would put in likely the nautical video category. So I'll probably talk about this again when I get to that topic again. Here we're not really going for warmth so much at all. It has a lining, not exactly necessarily workout wear, but not entirely just a layering piece. Kind of a, it's meant to be a standalone, but it's not quite a standalone because it's not really warm. But a lot of the nautical stuff, you're kind of wearing it more to keep the spray off than to really worry about even necessarily the wind. Again, when I wear something like that, I'm typically still cold underneath. So like if I put that on top of that lightweight fleece thing, maybe, kind of depends. So you might be just wearing it more for the look than any real warmth benefit or whatever. Again, no sleeves. So I'm either gonna, be fine with it or I'm going to be cold saying, oh, I need sleeves. Similar to that, of course, then would be the true windbreaker, or in this case, what is maybe supposed to be kind of a snow jacket, a ski jacket, again with the same kind of cold on your skin or slimy when you're sweaty kind of sleeve problem. Here, again, not office casual because just too sporty. Again, if you don't have another jacket and you're just wearing this till you get there and then you're putting it aside, that's one thing. But this is it's not, again, it's another one where the wind pretty much goes right through it, even though it's called a windbreaker. But if you're wearing a more aggressive, base layer kind of system underneath, not even necessarily a bulkier sweater than this, but like that real thick military thermal kind of stuff, or, whatever. I could see, like I said, I could see using this in the snow if you're going to be kind of active and you don't really want it to be, over warm. But I just use it as a, walking jacket. Like I said, those June evenings, that's kind of when that gets used. And then, of course, the even less insulated or whatever version, the Army, I think this is basically, it's anything like this is basically meant to be for like when you're jogging in the misty morning, like this is something I typically have in a hiking pack. Even if I'm just going on a day hike, if I think there's going to be any kind of wind or drizzle or whatever, I'll kind of take something like this. Um, but here you don't even have that sleeve thing. You have this just kind of mesh stuff that's just meant to wick your sweat, I guess. And stuff like this you can find used pretty, inexpensively. But again, is this even casual Friday? No, this is, like I said, if you're trying not to get wet on your way from, locking up your bike to getting to the classroom or something. And so that brings us more or less finally to the actual topic. I know it's kind of like I said, it was going to take a minute. Um, what did I not mention? Polo shirts. Yeah, if I'm wearing a polo shirt versus a rugby shirt with the longer sleeves, I'll be talking about this in a minute. A lot of guys kind of like that look, because it has a collar, but it's not a button shirt. So again, that can vary. I don't necessarily consider that office casual. Again, that depends on how super casual you're going. If that's for casual Friday, but again, then I have the short sleeves, which means the jacket's going to feel slimy down here. But at least I'm not wearing a t-shirt, or you're not wearing a t, however you want to. The so the next category is kind of amorphous because again I touched on this I think more in the indie video when I talked a little more extensively about leather jackets as a whole. Um, like I said, typically this time of year I'm still wearing a leather jacket, even if it's a lighter weight one, and even if I'm a little bit sweaty in it. Because would I rather be sweaty, or would I rather have my, my back and my arms be cold? It kind of, there's no real way to win. Um, but if you want something that's not leather, that's still considered, an adult jacket, again, not a sport coat, but a nice lightweight jacket. So again, maybe office casual, maybe restaurant appropriate, but and definitely not as sporty. Then we're getting into these. I guess it's called a car coat. I have this one in a navy that I did not use. I don't think I bought it last year. I might have bought it the year before, but we had so much. Like I said, we had so many heat waves already that I ended up using it. And again, this is a cheaper model. Now I've seen some of these that can go for hundreds of dollars, maybe even $1,000 or $2,000. I don't know what's the grand difference that you would need to spend that much on a generic kind of car coat. But here we have a zipper and a couple buttons at the neck. Now, and then kind of a windbreaker lining inside, but not typically terribly insulated again. So again, something you might want to wear with a flannel shirt, or most guys probably just wear it with a regular dress shirt. Again, kind of a step up from a sweater, but not necessarily more office appropriate than a sweater, but could layer with a sweater. Uh, this one, this one was, like I said, fairly inexpensive because I just it was before, I think, all the supply chain problems and things, and I just bought it uh, for, like I said, times when I don't necessarily want to wear leather. It's also a little more packable than leather because you're not trying to bunch it all up, so that's a thing. Um, but don't know how good windproof and waterproof it is because, like I said, I haven't had a chance to really test out the material. Conversely, I already had, and this will be the throwback version. This was a hand-me-down. It's an old London Fog, and but basically the same exact thing except with a total '70s collar here. And then now, those of you who might recognize this kind of thing morphed into the '80s members only jacket. And I never had a members only jacket. I had friends who did. This one has kind of a funky sleeve. Trying to show everything at the same time and talk. So it doesn't have all the same kind of refined features. Take the plastic. Doesn't have all the same kind of necessarily refined features as the exact members only style, but probably just as drizzle proof and wind proof overall, and not super insulated again. Kind of a basic, and then of course the same exact stuff inside the sleeves. Nothing has changed in 40 years. It's still basically the same stuff. Um, I didn't have the members. I don't know if the members only jackets ever came in any colors other than mid gray, and I'm not really a mid gray kind of guy. But if you saw one, used for a decent price, I wouldn't say there was anything significantly different about them. That it's just another utility jacket. So apart from that '80s stigma, like I said, this one even more because it has the '70s butterfly collar and all this kind of junk that I could trim off. But I suppose if I ever outgrow it, I could try and sell it as a vintage piece. But it should be getting some use this spring anyway, like I said, because last year it didn't get worn after I found it buried in a closet somewhere. And then similarly, just because then I have an Orvis one. This one did cost way more, and I bought it because I wanted to be the Jolly Green Leprechaun because spring. But as you can see, the same kind of buttons, maybe a slightly nicer pull tab than the Chinese model here. You got just a nylon thing here, whereas opposed to Orvis gives you a little bit of leather there. So it might be a little more durable. The buttons are probably Yeah, these are shirt buttons on this one, and these are maybe slightly nicer jacket buttons. But overall, I don't know what will be the significant difference. And again, like I said, basically the same stuff for the last 40 years, no matter which company you kind of go with. I don't know if there's any. They do have a little bit of tartan for my holiday spirit there, even though, like I said, I typically put away all the tartan stuff that's super overtly tartan in February or whatever. So yeah, I mean that's about the size of it. I mean, like I said, I don't know what necessarily constitutes a bomber jacket. I suppose some people can call anything a bomber jacket if you're an actual pilot and you don't like leather. I mean, like I said, these were, excuse me, I think it's designed to be car coats more than flight jackets, but they're basically based on flight jackets because jackets. So I don't know what else I can really add to that right now.